So the first scenario for this session is this, and I'll read it out, and after I've read it, we'll see what advice you guys have for this individual. So the first scenario is Sarah, who is 14 years old. She lives at home with her parents, and she has 2 younger siblings. Sarah often makes funny remarks which can sometimes come across as being rude while speaking to her friends. And recently she began to make such jokes more often, particularly picking on one friend. Many of Sarah's friends have told her to calm down, however, she ignored them, as she doesn't see anything wrong with her behavior, and is often rude to those who try to correct her. The question, or I guess the scenario here then is, what advice can you give to Sarah? So first of all, I want to ask all the young people who are on here first, if this was a type of friend that you had, what kind of advice would you give to them? And then we'll hear what the adults have to say as well, if that's okay. So if you unmute yourself, if you're in a room with a lot of people, just unmute yourself, and then let's engage in this. So we'll take our first advice.
So, sorry, George, just to clarify, did you say the age was 14?
She's the age of 14. That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Ivy.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll do mine afterwards.
Okay, I was just going to say that mine is true. I was just going to say that just let her know that everyone has his insecurities. So if she wouldn't like it if someone would, make jokes about her insecurities, so she'd just be careful because, everyone has their own issues that they're dealing with. So she might see it as a joke, she might not see it as big, but, there's something to her that she's very, protective about and very, serious about, that someone might make a joke about it. So I'll say to her that she should just be careful because, if someone could make a joke about her and she might not like it.
Okay.
That's my advice.
Thank you, Arnold. I think Ivy wanted to speak before then.
Yeah, I was just going to say about perspective. So what might not be big to you might be big to someone else. So you just have to consider other people's feelings. And also the rule is do to others as you want to be done to yourself. You wouldn't want someone to make fun of you. So you shouldn't do it to other people.
Okay.
I'd also like to add, there's this saying that I've heard multiple times of, if you don't hear, you will feel. So I've told you repeated times that what you're doing is wrong.
Mommy's on the way.
I will not put my hands on you in no shape or form, but you might do the same joke to the wrong person. And their response may not be, oh, what did you mean about that? Their response may just mean, let me hit you fast so that you feel it, and then we can talk later. So I'll just remind her of that quote, and hopefully it'll sink in so that I don't have to keep repeating myself.
Okay.
So I would like to say, as I know Mommy would beat her, but what I feel is that she needs to feel it as well. So you need to give her the same vim and just cuss her as well, so she can feel it. Humble herself.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's what. Just echo what Mommy said. Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting perspective that's provided there, Festus. I love that because I think that is real and authentic in terms of if someone cusses you and it's making you feel bad about yourself, let's be honest, in as much as we praise God and where we try to act as if we should be Christians in those scenarios, our natural response is if you're able to give, you should be able to take as well.
That's right. Let her feel it.
That's very authentic, and you're right, Festus. And anyone else? Any more? What would you do? And I think this scenario, we always have to answer it with 2 perspectives on, in terms of, so if you read the scenario, it talks about obviously Sarah, the individual, and also what kind of advice would we give to her one friend that she's bullying, that she's picking on? Because many of us do face these scenarios, and many of us, I'm sure, know young people who are in these scenarios. What kind of advice are we giving them to ensure that they know how to handle this if this is happening to them? Yes. Mr. Napoleon, yes, please.
I couldn't get the full scenario, but when
Okay.
it comes to someone bullying you, I will say that you should not look down upon yourself in any way. Don't let anybody's action on you put you down in any aspect of life.
Okay.
Even if you are the last person in class, which is usually in Ghana's tradition, where we do exams and we give reports about the first to the last, even if you are the last, you might have a place where you are expecting that person might not be there. And please believe me, it's not about education that brings success. It's about perseverance. It's about consistency. It's about punctuality. It's about determination. So you might have the determination to do something that somebody cannot do. He might think academic is the only resource. I'm sorry. If you wouldn't mind me, let me give you this example quickly. A teacher met his former classmate at a bank. This classmate was very, very, very weak in class. But when this person got to the bank, while the teacher was waiting in the queue, this last guy in the class were being held out to be saved. Why? Because he's a rich man. And he just went into normal work in the community and he became resourceful, started selling, and all of a sudden he broke through. Meanwhile, the teacher was at college trying to solve equations and writing articles and essays, which didn't take her anyway. So this guy was a known person at the bank because he comes over there every time. This teacher comes there once a month for her salary. So you see where life has taken everybody to. Don't let anybody look down upon you. Don't let anybody despite your youth, as the Bible says. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Uncle, for that.
I just want to add something as well. Just off the question you asked, George, about the advice that we would give to the friend. I think at that age, it's very easy to be consumed by your environment because you spend all of your time with all your friends 5 days a week at school. So it is very easy for your friends' actions to affect you. And I just want to say it's really important that you take care of yourself and you take care of your mental health and don't allow yourself to be consumed by the words of other people. So if someone is treating you in a certain way that you know in your heart is not right, you need to speak to someone that you know will be able to guide you out of. So to me, that looks like a toxic relationship, and those don't have to be in the form of what's that kind of relationship? The relationship between boyfriend and girlfriend. It doesn't have to be like that. You can have a toxic relationship in a friendship. So it's really important that you make sure that you find a mentor or someone that you can trust that will help guide you out of that situation, because like I said, it's just really very easy to be in school and just be so consumed by you feel like those are your only friends, and if they don't talk to you then no one else will talk to you, and it's really easy to get swallowed in that world. So it's just about taking care of yourself and finding someone that will be able to work your way out of it.
That's a very, very good point. And I think
the little I just want to add is I think we're talking about someone's emotional state. And one, we wouldn't know the emotional state in which this person is, but you also need to look at your own emotional state. You wouldn't want any friend who would make you feel you are not important. And you see, some of these things, its effect is not present, it has future implications as well, because as you go through in life, some of these things can play in your mind. The words that people say to you that are not positive can impact you negatively. So I would say, if you have a friend who do not see positives in you and attitudes are also not positive, it's best to speak to the person. But if they wouldn't want to make any changes, just be kind, just be bold enough to tell them, listen, these things wouldn't help me, so I would want to keep away, and then rather find friends who would build positive attitudes and see positives in me.
Thank you so much, Elder, for providing that perspective. I think with what you said, then I would kindly ask if we could talk a little bit about the parenting technique that develops a child into a state that they're in such a way. So, I mean, I've read some books where it talks about parenting techniques in terms of how you develop a child where they get to a stage where they struggle with the word no. So I don't know if anyone want to pick up on that. In terms of Sarah, who is an individual who's grown up, what kind of parents can we imagine that she has? And what has shaped her into the individual that she now is at 14 years old, where she's bullying her other peers? And how can parenting influence, or how can parenting help guide her back from that kind of vicious behavior that she demonstrates to others?
Permit me to come in first. I think Elder Samuel would have been the best person to answer this question, because he recently wrote a dissertation on child discipline, both from the Old Testament, New Testament perspective, and in our context. What I would say is, from my experience, what I have seen is training up a child or disciplining a child is not all about hitting, shouting at, and using words that dampen the spirit of children. Mm-hmm. As parents, some of our parents have got it wrong along the way. Mm-hmm. And it's had its impact on some of us. Others manage to survive it. Mm. So what I have personally, I'm speaking from my what I have realized is there is no need to be shouting constantly. It shouldn't be part of your way of training. That is not the best solution in addressing issues. Mm-hmm. I know once in a while, because we are humans, we might get it wrong and go over the top of our voices, but that should not be the norm. George, recently we had a program at your end. What I have realized through the Bible is when God is even angry with humanity, what does God do? God has a conversation. And it's so strange. Take your time and read the Bible. Even when God is angry with humanity, the way that God expresses it is in the form of a conversation. And even if God is going to discipline, it is through the conversation that is being had. And then he will outline, okay, if we all agree to this, that this is what you've done, then this is what I'm going to do. So what I would recommend to parents is that, please, let's rather engage in conversation with our children. It doesn't matter how serious the offense or the error that they've made. Let's talk about it. Let's be very open. Let them know the seriousness of what they've done, but in a very conversational way. And I can assure you that they can also feedback how they feel and what would have even led them to do what they did. Because otherwise, the shouting rather leads them keeping everything, bottling everything up, and you don't get to hear their perspective. And that is the most worrying thing.
Thank you so much.
We can try to help our situation by having a conversation rather.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you so much for that. I'm conscious of time, so if anyone else doesn't have anything more they want to add to it, I think we can move on to the next question, or the next scenario, shall I say. So the next scenario paints this picture. So, the trend is, these are all teenagers that we're dealing with, by the way. We have 4 scenarios. The second scenario is this. David is 15. Like most teenagers, he spends a lot of time on his phone. Instagram is his most used social media platform. He particularly enjoys following influencers and their lavish, extravagant lifestyles, such as flashy cars, expensive clothes, and holidays. David has become so engrossed in what he sees online that he seeks a way to make quick money so he can live the same life. So the question then is, what advice, if David was sitting in front of you right now with that type of mentality, or that kind of mindset, or that type of behavior, what advice would you give to David? In terms of, again, we want to hear the adult's perspective and the young person's perspective as well. So, Festus, I saw you on mute there.
Yeah. Oh,
repeat.
sorry.
Professor, sorry, can you repeat, please?
Yeah, Festus, go ahead.
I think Napoleon wanted it to be repeated, but
Go ahead, bro.
I would give him evidence and show him examples of people that have tried to pursue fast, quick money. Generally speaking, people that do that it doesn't end well for them. So all I can do is give him examples of those people, tell him stories, tell him paint out the real picture, because the evidence shows that it generally doesn't work out. That's it, really.
Okay. So evidence-based. Anyone else? I think Uncle Napoleon, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah. I wanted to be repeated, but let's go on, because the more we repeat, the more we have a bit clear distance.
Yeah.
And build that story. But there is an adage. He says, "Not all guilties are good. Not all glitters or guilt are good." This is the situation when you are youth or when you are young. You think that, oh, this person is rich and maybe it's a shortcut. When it's a shortcut, you lose your blessings. When you take any other means apart from the normal route to get there, you might get there today with a quick or shortcut, but I'm telling you, it won't work, because you lack a whole lot of experience that could have got you there, and you think you are there today, so you are done. And trust me, if things start to twist, the knowledge, the skills, the experience to manage it will be there, and you flop badly than even it was before, or it were before. This is life is such that we have to take things gradually to learn, to know, and to gain. If you go to James chapter 1, reading verses 2 to 4, there is a very nice word over there. It says, "My brethren, if ye fall into diverse temptations, take it as joy. Let the suffering, let the temptation, let everything that is happening take its own course. And by the end of that, you will gain an experience, you get a training that will be with you forever and ever." And sometimes when we are in trouble, we think, no, let's cut this short way and we will win. No. When you lose those experiences, when you get up there, you definitely flop one day that you have nowhere to fall to. But when you go through your experience, you have a net behind you to fall into. And all that we have to do is, we should not be jealous of anybody's thing. Don't think about my suit. Don't think about my car. Don't think about my house. Think about how you can also get something like that through hard working, through perseverance, through determination. If there's another time, I'll come back again to give you more scenario. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Elder. Anyone else want to touch base on before I add a bit more questions to it? So any advice that you would give to David?
Yeah, George, I just wanted to add that many times, when we're young, we feel like we have to achieve everything now, while we're young, because, that's it, that's life. But it's like, there's so, God willing, you know, there's so much more life to live. So it's like what Uncle Napoleon was saying about, you know, getting everything, and Festus was saying about getting everything straight away, getting everything quick. Like normally, most of the time, it doesn't last. So it's like, I'll just tell him to just enjoy, you know, the grafting and the learning in order to, you know, be able to acquire lots of money, because, you know, you might want all that money now, but you might not be ready for it now. So it's the time that it goes into preparing yourself as a person. That's what will lead you to sustaining that lots of money when you do get it. That's what I'll say to him.
Thank you, Arnold. So I think a spin-off question, in adding further to what Arnold has said, is basically most of these young people, they are being influenced because of the devices they're holding, and also more so sometimes because of maybe even the friends that they have. Maybe their friends have all these gadgets or have all these things that they want to have. So, and I guess maybe this question is targeted to the parents who are within us, or maybe a young person can answer this as well. What kind of advice would you give to a young person who has that kind of surrounding? Maybe they have a phone that they're following all these people. What are some practical steps that they can put in place? And also, if they're surrounded by friends who are kind of guiding them that way, what advice would you give to such a young person?
I just want to say firstly that I don't even think that this is just a young problem. I think even adults struggle with the amount of time they spend on their phone, because the amount of adults that I see, they'll be on WhatsApp, they'll be making calls. Even now, the amount of Zooms I've seen is ridiculous. But on the point of what a practical step a young person can do, I think even now there's these sort of like applications that can limit the time that you spend on certain apps. So I'll just tell them to, you know, as much as possible, try and stick to that time limit. Try and discipline themselves as much as possible. Stick to the time limits that they set on the apps that they use, because like it helps them so much. Because you can spend 1 minute on social media and before you know it, half your day is gone. So it's like I would just tell them, try and be disciplined enough to stick to the time limits that they set on those apps.
Excellent. Thank you, Arnold. Anyone else?
It was my child. I'm taking the phone off them after a period of time. That's it.
Oh gosh. Just to add on Arnold's point, even if I suggest you can put a limit on your phone, I've tried that before when I put the limit and I set the password, and I can just like undo it because I know the password. But it got to a time where I got a third party to set the password, and it was so annoying because sometimes I'll just be on WhatsApp mid-convo and it'll just like shut off. But I just have to get used to it, that now I need to become more disciplined in how much time I spend on these apps and who to respond to right now and who can wait until tomorrow. Yeah. So I think it is practical to suggest that way, but maybe also suggest to them to have a third party set that password, because it's so easy to just undo the limit if you're over it and you're like in the middle of a video on Instagram or something.
Thank you so much, Mami. Anyone else? I want us to talk a little bit about the quick money idea, because I think as young people, we might struggle with that, or we might know young people who struggle with that. First of all, so I think the general consensus I'm getting is that it's better to work hard for the money that you get. But I think if I'm mistaken, we also need to put certain guidelines in place in terms of how we advise, or we, Elder Jeff, you had your hand up. If you could, go ahead and say what you want to say, and then maybe you might touch on the topic I'm raising.
Oh, you finish what you're saying there, come in, please.
Okay, so I was just saying in terms of how we talk to young people who are maybe they're career driven, but also they aspire to, I wouldn't say to become a millionaire, but they're motivated to earn money. How do we have that safe conversation in terms of knowing the limits or knowing how to set the boundaries in terms of too much chase, where we use that text, the love of money is the root of all evil. How do we interpret that text into this kind of scenario where a young person is clearly chasing the lavish lifestyle? How do we let them understand the dangers of it and the impact it can have in their life? So, Elder Jeff, I don't know if you wanna answer that question, or we can throw it out to anyone else.
I'll make an attempt, and then probably someone can.
And then add what you want to say after.
Yeah. There's an answer that Jesus, or there was an advice that Jesus gave, which I believe it's practical for this particular situation that we're talking about. And it can be found in Luke chapter 12, verse 15. And I just want to read, I'm reading, this one is from the Message Bible, which is more refined than the King James and the New King James. It says, speaking to the people, he went on, take care, protect yourself against the least bit of greed. And this is where I love it. I love the second part. Life is not defined by what you have, even when you have a lot. The emphasis here I want to place is on life. Life. What is life? Life is not made up of what you've got and what you've not got. Because there are rich people who are confined to the bed now. I know very rich people who are sitting in prisons now. You can read them, just Google. There are rich people who do not have happiness. So if I have a young person or even an adult who is chasing after money and this kind of flashy way of living, my advice would be that, can you please pause and ask yourself, what is life made of? Is it the wealth that makes happiness? The Bible is not against somebody being a rich person, no. But the chasing after it, the consumption of your whole entirety of life, that if I don't get this, my life is meaningless. Or among my peers, amongst my colleagues, I will not be seen as the way I want to be seen. Then you do not have the understanding of life.
Mm.
Because life is not only based on what you have. And as the Message Bible says it, even when you have a lot, that is not life. So I would rather encourage this person or male or female or adult or young person. Let's talk about life. What do you want in life? What is life? And if you have all these things, what does it really mean to you in life? And I think it's through this conversational approach, probably this person might wake up and realize that all that you're chasing after might even be lost within a second. I mean, COVID-19 has told us straight away that it doesn't matter how much you have. You might work one day and might not even, you might need 10 pounds, or you can't even have it. Meanwhile, you have this money sitting in the bank. So I will look at life itself more than the wealth and the chasing of it. What does life mean to you?
Thank you, Elder. Anyone else want to add to that? So that will be, we'll take one more advice from that, and then we'll move on to the third scenario. Anyone else want to add to that scenario before we move on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for just one piece of advice that a lot of people don't tend to see when it comes to social media is that in social media, people put their best foot forward. no one will, no one will put the downsides, the sleepless nights, the issues that they're going through. What you see is what they want you to see. So at times when us young people, we see things like that, we need to really take it with a pinch of salt. Just because people have money, just because people are successful, you don't know what issues or what problems they have going on. Addictions, or even, issues with their self, and talking about insecurities and so forth. So we just need to really be careful of that. And I think when it comes to money as well, as it was said earlier, the quicker you get it, or when you take the shortcuts, it's very, very difficult to also hold on to it and maintain it. But if it's done the right way, sometimes not necessarily working hard, but it's more working smart, I think you learn a lot of things along the way. But yeah, those are my 2 cents really.
Thank you so much for the our doctor in the house. We will move on with the penultimate scenario, which is scenario number 3. So again, I'll read it, and then after we'll take the advice that comes out. So this is relating to a young person who's about to go into university. So just keep that in mind as I read it. It says, Lisa is 18. She is starting university this week, and she is excited to begin her new journey. The main thing she is anxious about is making new friends. In the past, she hasn't had trouble making friends, but has questioned the type of friends she's made. Lisa is very keen on making the right choices as she embarks on this new journey. What kind of advice, or what advice can you give to this young person who's probably scared, who is probably worried about her new experience that she's about to go into? So I know most of our young people are about to go into uni. I think some begin maybe next week or even this week. But yeah, most of our young people are about to go off, or most of our young people are in uni. But let's talk about this scenario in terms of someone who's about to go. They've come to you and they've explained to you that this is how they feel. As an adult, or maybe they see you as a mentor, they see you as a support for them. What kind of advice can you give to them to put them at rest, to assure them, because remember, they will be away from you. What kind of advice would you give to them? So we'll take Festus, Mame, and then Napoleon, please. So Festus.
I think I'd probably let them know that the people that are all going to uni as well, they're probably feeling something similar. That level of anxiety, thinking about, are people going to like me? Am I going to like people? So I'd let the person know they're not the only person going through that. They're not the only one feeling like that. What I would say is, when they go, just to be themselves. Because whatever, like, if they go there and be fake, they'll be faking for 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. So go there and be yourself, and whoever is like-minded will be your friend. That's it.
Thank you, bro. Mami?
I completely agree with what Fess just said. I'd also like to add that the beauty about uni is that it's literally a big pool of possible friends. So whereas when you're at home, you're kind of limited on who to choose to be your friend, or like what type of circles to be in. At uni, if I hang out with you for a week and then by Sunday I decide I don't really like you, I can actually avoid you and make new friends. So I'll just encourage them, just don't be anxious and just don't be like too bogged down about it. Because when I went to uni, I wasn't even thinking of making friends. And the only friend I made out of uni was my best friend from secondary school. So it's just like, just don't be too anxious and bogged down about which friends to make. Because as I said, it's a big pool of friends. And if you don't like one person, you can easily switch and find new friends. And you probably won't see person A for months or even years. So try not to stress out about it.
Thank you so much, Mami. Festus has this. I think Napoleon wanted to speak, and then we'll come back to Festus and Arnold. So Napoleon, if you could unmute yourself. Yes.
Right. Thank you. Like Mami Sewa said, you have to be strong to opt out in a friendship. You have to be very, very vigilant when it comes to choosing friends. Yes, you are going to uni, it's a 3-year, 4-year, or 6-year course. There is no need of rushing to have new friends. The anticipation is there, the anxiety is there, as Uncle Festus lamented. But you as an individual should be somebody who will have other means of being happy within yourself, even without friends. Because some friends can lead you into danger. Some friends can damage your life from uni or from wherever you are. So if you are not able to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable, you will end up saying your friends. But remember, and penny for cancer, Mr. Ayon, who grunting na ama abuakoto enyatri.
Well, I think you might have to interpret that a little bit for us.
You might, yes, definitely. Let me explain it. In African adage, they said because of bad friends or because of friends, they didn't say bad, because of friends. That's why the crab couldn't have a head. Why the question crab doesn't have a head, I'm yet to establish. But a number of friends have been negatively influenced others, have led others to where they didn't wanted to go. So thinking of having friends when you are going for a course or a program, or you are moving from one society to the other, should not be something that should not be a pinnacle for you, should not be a big objective. It's good you think of it, pray about it, but why are you going to that community? It's not about friends. You are going for your course. Let your course be your main focus. Out of the course will come friends that you want to have. I've been telling my kids they should always be self-sufficient. The more you are good, the more people who are good will come to you. If you don't produce anything good in class, nobody would like to take you as a friend. So you have to work hard to get the best out of everything. Let me put it here. If there's anything, I'll come and add more. But I have scenarios to put across when the opportunity comes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll come back to you so you can share those scenarios so we have a better understanding of this. But Arnold and then Festus will go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, obviously, before we spoke about the negatives of social media, but for one aspect of social media is that you can see a lot of people that are like-minded and a lot of people that are like you. Because sometimes I'm on Twitter and then I think I have a thought in my head. I'm thinking, oh, this is a crazy thought. Like no one else can think this. And I see someone tweet, I'm like, wow, I'm not the only mad person in this world. So it's like there's a lot of these, majority of young people now on social media. So it's like when they start using, there's a lot of these pages and there's a lot of these societies. So like you can see one or two people from there, and then when they do meet up, then you can see from a person's profile on Instagram, a person's profile on Twitter, like the sort of the sort of character they are. So then you can feel like you should approach them when the time does come, and that's a very easy way. That's an easier way to make friends, in my opinion.
Thank you, bro. Festus, yes.
No. Thankfully, my brother's already covered it, so that's me. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to go back a little bit to Uncle Napoleon's point, and then I will allow someone to. He mentioned about being self-sufficient. So I want to add another scenario to this scenario just so that we can expand a bit more, because I really think if a young person is listening to this and they are the type that really enjoys the company of others, or they enjoy that friendship lifestyle, like, let's be honest, we're social beings. When we talk about being self-sufficient, can we expand a little bit on that? Because that can sound very antisocial to someone who doesn't have the right boundaries in place. If you guys can understand what I'm saying. So can we expand a little bit about that in trying to answer this question, this scenario, sorry. How does someone go about being self-sufficient? So this is a question that goes out to anyone, but of course.
All right, can I help?
Yep, go ahead.
Right. It's very good. People will see you maybe from day 1, day 2, or even 3 months or 1 year to say you are antisocial. But when they get to know you, they realize, wow, this guy wasn't antisocial. And giving a different scenario to that, when I was in secondary school, the very first week that we went to assembly, my headmaster saw my eyes and he said, I'm a weed smoker. And he said it in front of the school assembly, which were about 200 students. In fact, it wasn't easy for me. But my determination was to prove him wrong.
Yes.
And by the end of my final year, which was a 3-year course, I was a very good friend to the headmaster, and he couldn't know how to handle me because he couldn't sing my praises. Because at every grounds, I was there and I was putting out my best. And I proved him that what he said was wrong, because when my eyes is red and it doesn't mean anything, you know, the saddest thing was not even my headmaster, but when my uncle I told to talk to the headmaster said, yes, your brother is a weed smoker, so it might be you're also a smoker. That was the bad side of it, the difficult part of it. But when they say you're antisocial, all that you are trying to do is that you are being vigilant in choosing friends. You are being very careful because you know where you are coming from. Life experiences differ. If I have to tell you where I came from to where I am, you may say, wow, but I don't know where you also came from. So when you know where you are coming from, you know, if I'm in trouble tomorrow, somebody might not be there to rescue me. You have to think about whatever you are doing ahead of you. Because somebody can get his uncle step out for him because the uncle is a lawyer, he's a police, that's how our Ghana culture is. It's nobody here that you face things on your own. In Ghana, you get some, oh, my uncle is a lawyer, you call him and he's there to relieve you tomorrow. But back home, over here, it's totally different. So that when you grow out from that place, your vigilant level always goes up. Over here, we need to understand the community and see that even somebody like David Beckham, they can sometimes belittle or flop him because he's done something bad. So choosing friends, or let's say thinking you are antisocial, it's all about being careful, being vigilant, and being self-sufficient. It's not about money itself, but it's about knowing yourself, knowing what you can do to help yourself, and not basing upon what somebody have brought to your house to help you or to influence you or to persuade you. If all that you've got is books and pen, please use that to entertain yourself. Use that to occupy yourself. Use that to build yourself. Don't think about somebody who have got money. Somebody who have got the iPad, he's got the tablet, he's got the iPhone, he's got the newest stuff in life. They are nothing. The parent brought him in a Mercedes, in a Lamborghini, in a whatever you may think of. No, your dad joined you on a train. He took you to the school. He walked with you to the end of the school and everything. But somebody was in a car. Life is totally different. But you can be there tomorrow if you are hardworking, if you are focused, if you take yourself out of this antisocial situation where you can be convinced to follow negativity. So all that we have to do is to be very vigilant when we are opting for everything. Because it's not, and again, I'm quoting this, it's not all guilties that are good. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love the authenticity in that story. Elder Jeff, can you, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Elder George. I want to start from the position that uni is the greatest place you can ever have, man. It doesn't matter which country it is, because it is a world on its own, and it's a world that opens your eyes to things that previously you were not exposed to. Okay. So its experiences shape you one way or the other, whether you like it or not, it shapes you. But then you would have to be clear in your mind what you want. And I think that is all that Uncle Napoleon has been saying. You have to be clear in your mind, what do I want in coming to uni? Do I want friends, or do I want to come out with my academic qualifications? That should be your first thought. If you know what you want, you can have all kinds of friends in uni, and it will be great for you. If you want to focus on your academics, it will also define your priorities for the 3 or 4 years that you are there. That's the minimum, because I don't want to even stretch it to those in the medical profession. But what I want to say is, even if you are someone who naturally desires to have friends, please do not show yourself as someone who is desperate for friendship. Never ever demonstrate that you are desperate for friendship, because that then becomes your weakest point. Be happy to have people around you, fine, that's good, but never show yourself as desperate, and therefore you go around chasing friends, and then they will then start dictating to you. And when you do not seem to be in approval of what they want you to do, and they play the withdrawal symptom, you feel you are losing out, and therefore you go back to them. So it looks like you are dependent upon them for your very survival, which is a wrong notion to have. You can live without your friends, I can tell you. You can live without them 1,000 times. So even if you are somebody who loves people around you, never show yourself to be desperate for friendship. The fourth point I want to raise, which is found in our hymn. It's a song found in our hymn. It's Take Time to Be Holy. And there's this line which says, make friends of God's children. Even if you love friends, please ask God to lead you to friends who know God. And I can tell you that on the campus that you are, out of the hundreds or even possible thousands of students there are God's children there. And God will lead you to friends or to people who are in fear of God. Make friends of God's children. I mean, none of us as God's children should be desperate to make friends of people of the world. And when I say people of the world, people who will lead you to go do wrong things. Pray that God will lead you to friends who know and fear God. The last thing I just want to say, which Uncle Napoleon has said a lot, is all that glitters is not gold. I was speaking to a friend this week in Ghana, and she was telling me that a lady has come back from UK to Ghana. Fortunately for her, she's got a British book. But the sad thing was, it looks like the parent the dad is a diplomat. But the sad thing was, this lady in her late 30s hasn't even got a university qualification. And for some strange reason, she has been brought to Ghana. And it looks like coming back to the UK might be a bit of a problem. So she would have to be in Ghana for some time. And there are job opportunities opening up for her. But if she's asked to present her qualifications or her certificate, she has none. And I was thinking, could it be that she joined the wrong company and thought that because his dad is a diplomat, she could just sail through life. But here is a situation where life has turned its head over, and she finds herself now struggling to enroll in a university in Ghana just to make up for lost time. So please, friends are good. Having friends is good, but make friends of God's children. Never make yourself desperate for friendship. And know why you go to uni. It is not only for friendship. It is meant for you to come up with something more than that.
Thank you, Elder. We appreciate that advice. I'm sure this individual would appreciate that advice. Arnold, we want to hear what you have to say as well, and then we'll move on to the final scenario.
Yeah, just a couple of points from me. I just wanted to say that, during this period, during this, time in history, like if there's ever been a chance for people to get to know themselves, like it's been now. Like if you didn't know yourself well before lockdown, before the pandemic, you haven't gotten a chance to know yourself properly during this pandemic, then you've been wasting your time, because now more than ever, you've had the chance to know yourself and know what you stand for. So when you are going to uni, like you know what sort of friends that you need, what sort of people you'd like to be around. And terms like fun and cool, like they're subjective terms. Like it's not as much as the world tries to paint a picture, there's no one way of having fun. There's no one way of being cool. So it's like once you've gotten to know yourself, like Festa said at the beginning, like if you know who you are, you know what you stand for, then someone else said that you attract the right friends, and all the friends that you think are the coolest or have the most fun, as Uncle Napoleon has kept on saying, not all that glitters is gold. So they might look like they're having the most fun, but really and truly they could not be. So it's like, I would just say that get to know yourself, especially during this time, so that when you do go to uni, you know what sorts of friends you want to be around. And God willing, they are friends that are God's children, as Uncle Jeff said as well.
Thank you so much, bro. I think I would even like to chip in this one. I remember when I was starting uni, and I don't want to date myself, but this is like 2010 when I was beginning uni. And sometimes when you look back, I remember the day, like you're so anxious and you're so worried about, how am I even gonna be received? But looking back now, I'm like, what was I so worried about? And I think it takes me back to the text that reminds us that we should literally live in the day, in the moment, and not worry so much about what tomorrow will look like, or worry too much about the things that we can't control. Because I think in trying to pick your friends, or in trying to be worried in such a way that Lisa here is worried, you're really trying to control things that are outside of your remit as a human being. Sometimes it's better just to live in the moment and understand that, it's better to take each day as it comes, in terms of, today I'm going to uni, and just take the day as it is, rather than worrying about the little details and the final details of things that you can't really control. And the greatest thing about that is that when you look back, as I can look back now, and then I look back sometimes and I'm like, why did I worry about some of those things? You will look back in greatness and understanding, I thank God so much for carrying me through this period. And that can help you moving forward to not worry or fret about things as well. Anyone else want to add more to this? Or anyone else want to advise Lisa a bit more before we move on to our final scenario? Yes, please. Attack us. If you could unmute yourself, please. And let's hear you.
It's me, Dockhouse, by the way.
Hi, Dockhouse. Sorry.
It's all right. Basically, I would say being comfortable in your own skin is actually a good thing, especially when you go to uni, because you meet different type of people from all walks of life. And if you're comfortable in your own skin, you'll be able to make the right choices while you're at uni. So, I mean, everybody has said the right thing, but I feel that as young people, like, we are persuaded quite easily by our peers. But with that person in that scenario, try to be comfortable in your own sin and seek God. Being antisocial is not a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing where you're not socializing with others, so then you become isolated, and then that can lead to all sorts of things. So you can have one or two friends, but also just know that when it comes to making decisions, you know the right decisions to make amongst your friends. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for that, Dorcas. It's a very, 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 and I'm glad you pushed through and you shared this, because I think a young person hearing this will understand that they needed that perspective in terms of making friends. We will move on to our final scenario. By the way, thank you guys so much for all the comments that have been coming through. Those who are not sharing, so Bethany, Dejon, Isaac, I want to hear you as well, and Danielle as well. So please, let's hear you for this final scenario. So this scenario is, it says this: Josh is 20 years old. He's had a rough year and feels emotionally drained and overwhelmed. He has tried talking to his friends, but they always brush him off and don't take him seriously. He also finds it difficult to speak to his parents, as they often downplay his feeling, and make him feel as though he is too young to be stressed about anything. Josh wants to talk to someone. But as a young Black man, he doesn't want to be labeled as soft. What advice would you give to Josh? So I'm going to read that one more time, because I think sometimes I fast forward this. Josh is 20 years old. He's had a rough year. He feels emotionally drained and overwhelmed. He has tried talking to his friends, but they always brush him off and they don't take him seriously. He also finds it difficult speaking to his parents, as they often downplay his feelings and make him feel as though he's too young to be stressed about anything. Josh wants to talk to someone, but as a young Black man, he doesn't want to be labeled as soft. So, what kind of advice can we give to Josh, who finds himself in a scenario like this? Again, yep.
I know it's difficult. It's not easy, especially based on the fact that he's a young Black man, and the perception is what the perception is. But it's really important that he finds someone to speak to. There must be even if there's no one in his life that he feels that he can't relate to and speak to. There are services that he can use, even if it's like these confidential counselling service or something. But it's important that he speaks to someone. Otherwise, the issues will just compound, and as he gets older, it will get worse. So I would encourage him to step out and speak to somebody.
Cool. Thank you, bro. Yes, Napoleon. Yeah, go ahead, please, sir.
Speak to somebody.
I also could add, also, it's like times like those that using or leaning on the support of people within the youth department is also a really good idea. We hope to build a safe space where the young people feel like they can in confidence, and we'll be able to hear them out, because I think we can all vouch at some point in our lives, we've all felt quite down, and like we've maybe had friends who have maybe brushed it off, or maybe we haven't quite got the response we wanted from our family. So I just feel like some young people should also know that there are people within the youth department you could also come to and speak to. Don't ever feel like you can't speak to no one. Never sit and like just have to deal with your problems on your own, especially at that age as well. Like you're like coming up to the final year of university, the big wide world is literally a year away, and like stresses of you enough for you to then have to bear that on your own and then have to try and think for the future. So I would definitely say a young person should always find someone they trust, whether it's someone their own age, someone older, someone younger, whatever it is, and be able to confide in that person.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you so much, because I think as young people, we do need to hear that the leaders are open in hearing us. Some of the issues that we go through can be quite daunting, but it's good that a young person hearing this knows that they have a youth leadership that is willing to hear their issues and is willing not to judge them or paint them in any color, but willing to offer that hearing aid. That sometimes literally that's all what a young person needs. So thank you so much for sharing that. Napoleon, I know you wanted to say something. Sorry so much, Uncle. If you can unmute yourself. Yep, go ahead.
That's all right. You know, we are in the community, so when you are not called, you should understand that others have also got something to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a hymn number 499. What a friend we have in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
We have to bring all our burdens to him. He will help us. Mm-hmm. When these uncertainties comes in, if we know our God, we should not be fear of anything. We should be well focused and know that with him, everything will be possible. And mostly we should not rush in anything, because everything has its own time that it will come to happen or to come to pass. When we try to rush through things, that is where the big mistakes come in. So anything that we are experiencing, we should remember to pray. Mm. We should take our time to look at the angles of the situation and how we can overcome them. It might seem very difficult, but with time, we shall overcome. With perseverance, we shall win. With determination, again, we shall win. So if Josh thinks there was a bad year for him, everybody have a history, but how do you manage it from today onwards is the most important thing. Even the Bible admits, if we don't know, we are ignorant, we are innocent, and we will not be judged against it. But when we know, where we know, and we pretend to, let's say, avoid or ignore or something, that is where we become guilty. So a rough year can come, a bad life can happen, but when we become conscious of ourselves like the prodigal son, we should not be people who procrastinate. We should take action to change it, to amend it, to improve it. If we lose that, that is where the problem becomes worse. We should not be shy of what has transpired. We should take it as a lesson. And a time will come where we also be advising people of our situation. So no matter what, when we become overwhelmed of a situation, when we feel sorry of a situation, yes, we are human beings. This has to happen because we say we are capable. When that happens, don't be strong, admit your errors, your mistakes, but work out the best way forward. It might be a car, you have an accident. What happened? Tomorrow you avoid it. You get a lesson, you get a skill, you get understanding of it, and you put a stop to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle. I want to provide a bit of perspective here as well in terms of the question that's being asked. I see two problems, and I want to open. If you want to add questions or if you want to add a bit more to the discussion, please feel free. But there is a point in which the scenario states that the young person is uncomfortable speaking to his parents because they downplay his feelings. How should, as a young person, so I want to hear from a young person here, how should he go about speaking to his parents for them to get his parents to understand? So I guess we need both the perspective of young and old here. So maybe if we can hear from a young person and also an adult here, how if as a young person, in terms of Josh's scenario, if I feel as if I can't go to my parents with certain problems, how do I ensure, or as a parent, how do you ensure that you create that environment that your children can bring those problems to you? And as a young person, how do we ensure that we are getting the best advice, even if we think we're not getting to our parents? Or how do we retrain our minds to ensure that, you know what, we need to take our problems to our parents? If anyone can kind of help with those two issues.
Hey George, I think as a young parent myself, I think it's important to encourage constant dialogue with your children. As honest and open as you can be, because with that in play, will encourage them to be able to also come to you at particular points in their life when they're feeling a certain way. It doesn't matter how trivial it is or how major it is. If there's open dialogue, then that generally encourages an environment of ongoing discussions. That's it.
Thank you, big bro.
I'd also like to add to what Festus has just said. Now, what I'm going to say might be controversial and may not always work for everyone, but obviously you just have to, as a young person, assess, you know, whether that will work for you and your family. But I've found in the past, it's always worked to maybe speak to a pastor that is quite close with you and your family, and that you know that if they were there to kind of mediate or like just have that meeting with you and your family where it's an open space where you can all speak, and like maybe if the pastor can translate it in a way where the adults can understand, because sometimes there's a I think sometimes there's a breakdown in communication, because the way a young person might say something to their parents or to an adult may be perceived as like rude or disrespectful, but they may not mean it in that way. That just may be how they're trying to like give off their emotions in that moment. So sometimes I've found anyway that it works to have a trusted pastor or person in the church that is able to act almost as a mediator between the young person and their parents. So yeah.
Very good. Very good. And I think, Daniel, the point you're making is in terms of a pastor, it can be someone, an adult who can relate to the parent, or generally be able to explain things for the adults to see the perspective of the young person. Thank you so much for sharing that. Dejan, did you want to say something?
I was going to say that I think it depends on like the age of your parents.
Okay.
Like, with me, you know, my parents are young, so they're still like, what's the word? They still know a lot. Whereas like, not a lot, but whereas like older parents, they're not really like with their kids right now, they don't really talk to them or see how you are. Like, if you were to go to them, you say, if you were to go to them with a problem and tell them, oh, you're stressed, like, oh, why are you stressed? You don't know nothing, you don't do anything. Whereas with my parents, like, because they're young, they know like what's going on in life, what's going on. So with me, like, it's easier to talk to them because like I'm talking to a friend. Whereas with an older parent, it's not like a friend. It's like, cool, I'm your dad and your mom, just blah blah blah. But it's just like they can try and see, like, obviously just talk to his parents at times, like, mom, how you doing, blah blah blah. Just talk to them, get more friendly with them, let them open up more, in order to obviously have that conversation with them so they can understand.
Mm.
But,
Thank you for sharing that, Big John. I think from speaking from a young person perspective, your voice is really, really valued here, and we appreciate that. But I think even in terms of being a young person, and I think we're talking about mental health here. It's very important that, I think, as I said previously, Danielle mentioned it, as young men, we need to understand that it's okay to speak out, or it's okay to even be soft in terms of when speaking out. If you need to be emotional, it's okay to be emotional. I think sometimes we portray ourselves as if we need to be strong and macho throughout everything that we go through, when the reality is some of us are not wired that way. And because of the perception we have in our minds of how men should be, we struggle to be like that. So that's just add a little bit more to that point. The second point I wanted to talk about was I think I just touched on it, but in terms of how do we go about advising a young male who's Josh about the positivity. So I don't know if anyone can kind of share their story or share an example of a story you've heard about maybe mental health, the power of speaking out. What are some of the positives that you can share? Just so that if I'm Josh and I'm listening, I can actually listen and take away that, you know what, wow, this I can take this away to understand that, you know what, this person was going through a similar issue with me. They spoke out and these were the benefits. I don't know if anyone can share a testimony of theirs, or maybe someone that you heard. Anyone? Okay. So I think it was like 2 years ago when I took on one of our young people at my local church in terms of just mentoring him and providing a space where he could offload, because he lived with parents where he couldn't do that for himself. It's been 2 years now we've been doing it, in terms of every now and then he will come to my house or we'll meet somewhere and we will just talk generally about life. It won't be specifically about anything, we'll just talk about life. And I guess in terms of sharing it in the context that we're talking about here, I've seen how that has molded his character into the man that he is now. I've seen how providing a space for him to offload has allowed him to be free to a certain extent. So most of our young people go through a lot when they're back home, especially during this pandemic, when they're having to live with their parents for a longer period of time. They're going through a lot, and providing that space for him to sometimes even call me and we just talk generally about things that he's dealing with. Sometimes I also talk to him about things that I'm dealing with, just to make sure that he doesn't feel like he's the only one who has problems. I witnessed that, you know what, there's great power in that. There's great power in mentoring young people. There's great power in the older ones who are amongst us, picking up a young person in the church who sometimes they're struggling, but because of the perception they have these days, they suffer in silence rather than verbally coming out and saying, this is my struggle. So it's good to not pick someone generally, but like get close to someone and understand their struggles and just walk life with them, because it's important to see that someone was able to get through it. And if someone else was able to get through it, surely I can get through it as well. And so that is something that I just wanted to add to it. Any of our questions or anyone want to add more to any of the scenarios that we've given as we bring this to a conclusion?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Just to finalize things up, if you got a friend and you feel that your friend is not doing what is right, be strong to opt out. Don't be caught up in the situation. A whole lot of friends haven't helped their friends or their colleagues, but it's not because he or she is your friend, so you think let me allow him or let me follow him. Your instincts, the actions should tell you. You know where you have been brought up from. You know what your parents have told you. Don't think what your friend is saying that you know is not supporting or building up upon what your parents or you know already is the best. So we should be very, very careful. We should be very, very insightful. The moment the action starts, you have to be able to think ahead to know where it's going to end. And it's either you follow it or you pull out. Otherwise, you end up and you say, I didn't know. But your instinct might have told you, or the actions could have given you a foresight. So we should have a foresight. We should know where things will end up. If they say, let's go to the library, you know, yes, I came here to study. Library is good. Let's go and do exercise. Yes, you have to keep fit. You follow that. The moment they start partying, am I here for party or am I here for a certificate? Is this party God's children party or is the world party? Know where it will take you to before you lose your history or before you lose your character that is good to the environment that you are in. The way you handle yourself is the way the environment will support you. You can't be put at the environment where you see all thieves, but if you prove to be innocent, people will see that this person is innocent. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Brother Arnold, did you want to say something? If you don't want to say anything, then I think we'll ask you to pray. But before you pray, thank you all for adding to the conversation. I don't know if there's any announcements that needs to be made before the final prayer is said. But I will leave this over to Arnold and the team to take over from here.
Thank you very much, George, for spending the Sabbath with us. Thank you for blessing us with the word this morning, and thank you for mediating this afternoon discussion. Thank you very much appreciated. So yeah, there's no announcements, just everyone just be ready for the campaign that's about to start. And next week, yes, so everyone just be ready for the campaign that's about to start. So as we close, we all bow our heads for a word of prayer. Close our eyes and bow our heads for a word of prayer. Our Lord and most gracious Father, we thank you for all that you've done for us. Lord, we thank you for blessing this youth day and helping it to be a success in your name. Lord, we thank you for all the people, everyone who's participated in the youth day. Lord, we thank you for all those who've watched the youth day. Lord, I pray that they would be truly blessed. Lord, I pray that someone has taken something from today, Lord, whether it's been in the morning, whether it's been through the praise, the songs and praises, whether it's been through the sermon, whether it's been through this afternoon discussion. Lord, I pray that you bless each and every individual, Lord. And as we are about to enter a new week, Lord, I pray that you help us, Lord. Pray that you help these discussions not just be discussions, Lord, but help them to be the start of something. Help them to start be actions and not just talk, Lord. Help us to use what we've discussed and what we've learned to better our lives, to better the lives of young people, Lord. I pray for all the young people, Lord, who are about to enter a new stage of their life, Lord, whether it be entering sixth form, whether it be just starting a new year, whether it be going to university, Lord, I pray that you guide and protect them, Lord. Help them stay close to you, Lord. I pray that they always seek comfort in you, Lord, and wherever they go. And as you know, as we're in the situation we are now, Lord, I pray that you bless and help the world, Lord, help the church, Lord, help us to come on the outside even feeling more blessed and even more thankful, Lord. I pray for all these things and so much more. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
And then, guys, that will conclude this afternoon's session. Thank you once again, George. God bless you.
God bless you all. Thank you for the invite. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Peace, folks.
Stay blessed.